I'm choosing to take action in spite of my old beliefs. I'm choosing to take action as a result of what I used to believe. I'm choosing to step up and step into my power. I'm now choosing to upgrade my knowledge, my skill, my awareness so that I can achieve my goals and dreams faster and easier than ever before. Would you agree with this? Awareness is what gives me choice, and my choices are what can create my freedom, right? Now, if it's true that we can become more aware, mindset plus skill set plus action set needs to be aligned, right? Would you agree that becoming a millionaire or a multimillionaire is an effect, right? Having a net worth of $1 million or earning $1 million a year, that's an effect, right? Effect. Right? Your health is an effect of what you eat or don't eat, how you sleep, what exercise you do. Yes, your metabolism. But when we're looking at money, how much net worth you have and how much income you have every day, every week, every month, every year, it's an effect. And so if we want to be masters of effects, we have to be masters of. So let's go back to point one for today. I'm not going to get into the behaviors yet today because me telling you what are the right behaviors doesn't change. Are you aware that you and I have these automatic negative thoughts or automatic positive thoughts based on what has been conditioned in our subconscious mind from birth, from what we were taught by our parents, our teachers, our experiences, and the meaning we gave things, right? So is it possible that in order for you and I to develop a millionaire mindset, first we need to discuss, determine, be aware of the automatic negative thoughts versus the automatic positive thoughts? Here is some research that was done several years ago around automatic negative thoughts and automatic positive thoughts, because here's what happens. When we have an automatic negative thought, okay, we have basically a 9-to-1 ratio, 9 negative thoughts to every 1 positive thoughts on average. 9-to-1, why? Well, we have something called the right prefrontal cortex in our brain. And whenever we're thinking about achieving something really great, we want to double our income. We want to make more money this month. We want to pay off our debt. We want to be financial free. We want to become a millionaire. Do you know what the right prefrontal cortex, this part of your brain, does? It automatically looks in your memory bank, right, in your subconscious memory bank, and it says, what if you fail? What if you're embarrassed? What if you're ashamed? What if you're ridiculed? What if you're judged? What if you're disappointed? And this part of our brain is responsible to keep us safe and in our comfort zone. Why? Because we avoid pain and we avoid discomfort more than we move towards pleasure. Let me repeat, pay close attention. We as a species will do more to avoid pain and discomfort than we do to gain pleasure, okay, and reward. So average expeditious, failing in our brain can be a win because it's protecting us from being disappointed, protecting us from being embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, judged, protecting us from dealing with our family, protecting us from looking in the mirror saying, you see, you knew you wouldn't succeed. So what do you think we need to do? And this is where I start with all of my students. The first thing is we have to become aware of the thoughts. The first thing we want to be aware of is thoughts. Okay, we're not born with any thoughts. We're not born with any beliefs. We're not born with any habits. We're not born with any negative fears or empowering thoughts, right? We're not born with any of those. We develop these patterns in our brain. And guess what our subconscious mind does? Imagine that you have bubbles that percolate up from your subconscious mind. Imagine 6,200 bubbles a day are percolating from your subconscious mind. 6,200 thoughts is how many we have a day. If 90% of those, okay, if 90% of those are negative, That's about 5,500 negative thoughts a day. And let's say about 700 or 600 or so are positive thoughts. Do you know what we are responsible for? To be aware of the thoughts, to let go of the disempowering ones, and to focus on the positives. An untrained brain allows their thoughts to control them, allows their emotions to control them, but a trained brain is aware of thoughts, is aware of emotions, feelings, and sensations, is even aware of behaviors, and then chooses what to focus on. Is it possible that focus and attention, where we place our attention, is a skill we can get better at? Do you know the reason for meditation? Do you know the reason, for mindfulness? It's to become more aware. So if we become more aware, and we've already established that if you want to develop a mindset of a millionaire, do you know what millionaires think about? Do you know what millionaires do about disempowering or negative or destructive emotions? They have them as much as everybody else, but they decide to focus on how to have positive thoughts, how to solve the problem, how to feel empowered, how to be inspired, how to get motivated. Does this make sense? It's awareness that gives us choice, and choice gives us freedom. And the freedom that we want is the freedom to take empowered action every single day. If you want to become more aware, of your thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, and behaviors, here is something that you can do, What if you took your mobile phone and every hour, maybe at 55 minutes past the hour, you just set up an alarm, and when that alarm went off, you took 1 to 2 minutes, and first what you did is you took 6 deep breaths in through your nose and gently out through your mouth, like you're breathing out through a straw, so it would look like this. Are you aware that if you did that 6 times, that's called inner size number 1, take 6, calm the circuits, you deactivate the stress, the self-doubt, the worry, the anxiety center of the brain, which is a reactive neurochemical reaction, and you move into a calm to respond part of your brain, which is the parasympathetic nervous system. And if you did that, and then you did what we call is inner size number 2, which is AYA, awareness, intention, action. What if you practice being aware every hour of your thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, and behaviors, thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, and behaviors. And what if you didn't judge it, you didn't blame, you didn't do any shaming or feeling guilty, you just were aware of a pattern? And then what if that was the awareness piece, and what if you set an intention for the next hour? My intention is the next hour is to take inspired action, to earn more money, to get out of debt quicker, to do research on where I should invest to become a millionaire. What if the awareness and intention then led to one action step for the next hour? Is it possible that if you started to train your brain every hour, you'd have about 7, 8, 9 little mini training sessions a day that lasted 2 or 3 minutes? Over the course of a week, that's maybe, 70 or so training sessions or 60 training sessions. In the course of a month, that's 240 little mini training sessions that causes you to focus on the positive thoughts, the positive emotions, the positive intentions, and the positive behaviors. Is it possible that that's what leads to creating more positive thoughts, more positive emotions, and more positive automatic behaviors? Right? So this is where awareness gives you choice, choice gives you freedom, but here's what I can promise you. You won't do it automatically until you train your brain to do it automatically for you. That is what a habit is. Would you agree that you and I are creatures of habits? Of course we are. So why is it important to train our brain? Or in some cases, retrain our brain? Because We have all become creatures of habit, and habits create 97 to 98% of our day-to-day thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, which leads to our results. Would you agree with that? Right? So we want to set the attention, we want to have the intention, then we want to back it up with actions just a little bit. Anything that we repeat, practice makes permanent patterns. Let me repeat that. Practice makes permanent patterns. Permanent patterns are otherwise known as habitual patterns. Habitual habits are what drive yours in my life. Would you agree with that? How important is mindset, right? If you want to double or triple or quintuple your income, if you want to become a millionaire or a multimillionaire. I want to share a little story with you that I think will help you frame things right, okay? But most people, they take a look at their job, their career, the amount of income they make, and then they say, well, this is what I can do, and this is the lifestyle that I want to live. Does that make sense? Right? Yeah, that's how most people do it. When I was in my early 20s, a long time ago, my first mentor asked me a question. The question he asked me was, what kind of lifestyle do you want to live? And many of you know the story. He gave me some documents, and he asked me, how much do I want to earn? What kind of lifestyle do I want? What kind of cars do I want? What kind of homes do I want? Where do I want to travel? And then when I wrote down everything that I wanted, he said, well, how much do you think it would cost you to live that lifestyle? And I said to him, I don't know. And he said, well, if you don't know, then how are you ever going to achieve it? How are you ever going to have a goal and a target for what you need to earn and how much you need to save to have that lifestyle? He said, people who don't understand how to use their mindset right, they allow their present circumstances to control their thinking, but people who want to achieve greater and greater goals, they ask themselves, what's the lifestyle I want to live? And then they reverse engineer how much money they need to make, what knowledge, what skills, what behaviors, what habits they need to have. Does that make sense? So one of the greatest shifts that I ever had around mindset was first and foremost what I talked about yesterday in day one of this, Millionaire Mind training was you have to get your awareness of your thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, behaviors so that you can adjust them. But then you also have to be focusing on what it is that you want, right? And so when we are looking at getting our $100 billion brain, okay, to work for us instead of it repeating patterns, not only do we need to be focused on what it is that we want and how we need to upgrade our knowledge and our skills, right? What we also have to do is something called reframing. Reframing. Does anybody know what reframing is? Reframing. Now, we have beliefs, we have perspectives, we have paradigms, right, that our brain is operating under. And if your brain is like a biocomputer, which it's kind of like a biocomputer, it's making sure that your outside world of results matches your internal, your current internal map of reality, your internal map of reality. And it is creating thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, and behaviors. And it's also doing what? It's causing you to behave in ways that are a match with your current beliefs, your current experiences, your current traumas, your current pains, your current fears. Does that make sense? So is it possible to reframe a negative experience, a negative belief? So let me give you an example. I want you to think about this for just a moment. Do you have a negative or disempowering belief that you believe right now? I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I tried this in the past and I failed. Do you have a limiting belief? I'm going to give you a reframe of a belief that may be holding you back that you can now use to empower you if you choose. How does that sound? Ask yourself this question. Were you born with a limiting belief? Were you born with a limiting belief? Were you born to believe you're too young or too old? Right? Let's think about what is a belief in the human brain. Let's not just think of the human brain as a 3-pound mass of, protein and fat and water and neurochemicals, but let's think of our brain as patterns that got wired, soft wired, not hardwired, patterns that got soft wired. The patterns that got reinforced became dominant patterns that operate automatically, right? So we have circuits, okay, that activate these patterns. We have triggers that activate those neural circuits. So let's say we want to achieve a goal, but we feel we're too young or too old, too white, too black, too Asian, whatever the limiting belief is. What if we just said that somewhere from the time I was born to now, I developed this belief, and maybe that belief, okay, isn't true. Let me give you an example. Did you ever believe that Santa Claus was real? Did you ever believe that Santa Claus was real? Did you ever believe that the tooth fairy was real? Well, of course, some people believed those things, depending on the culture, the environment that they grew up in, depending on their parents, their teachers, their school, right? So here's the question. If at one time in your life you believed something like Santa Claus or the tooth fairy, and then you discovered that that isn't a true thing, it's part of culture, maybe religion, is it possible that you can take a limiting belief, all right, about yourself, about your self-worth, your self-esteem, whether you're good enough, worthy enough or not, and is it possible to reframe it? Let me share with you something that happens. When we have a belief, all right, that is negative or disempowering, okay, or destructive, negative, disempowering, or destructive, either one of those, all that means is in our brain, there are neurons that connected, neurons that got reinforced, and through the experience, they became part of our subconscious implicit memory. Does that make sense so far? If that makes sense, then if we go to a higher cortical function of understanding, maybe that belief isn't true. Maybe the meaning that I gave it, or maybe my parents giving that to me, or my teachers or my siblings, or at school I learned this belief because that's what people believed at that time, or I gave that incident, that occurrence, that meaning at a very young age where I really couldn't choose the meaning because it was emotionally painful maybe. Well, what if we can take a limiting belief, and what if as adults we use higher cortical function, specifically that left prefrontal cortex, or what I call is the Einstein part of the brain that I have up there, right? You see that up there? What if we can just take a language pattern? What if I give you a technique? And what if you wrote out your limiting belief and you saw it, get it out of your head, look at it on a piece of paper, that changes your relationship with the belief. And what if you just wrote a counter belief saying, in the past, I used to believe whatever the belief is. And now that I am, wiser, smarter, older, more present, more aware, now that I am able to choose, okay, empowering, constructive, positive beliefs, I am choosing and write the opposite of that. I'm choosing to take action in spite of my old beliefs. I'm choosing to take action as a result of what I used to believe. I'm choosing to step up and step into my power. I'm now choosing to upgrade my knowledge, my skill, my awareness so that I can achieve my goals and dreams faster and easier than ever before. If you learned a disempowering pattern or a disempowering pattern got ingrained into your brain when you were young during the modeling, imprinting, or experiential years, then why not as an adult rewrite them? Think about this. Imagine that you hired a software programmer, and a software programmer was a junior programmer. She or he wasn't experienced and wrote really shitty programs, really shitty software code. Let's say you became an amazing programmer and you wrote amazing code and you saw this junior programmer's code and you go, that's not very good code. I have to rewrite the code. I have to re-script this. If you were experienced and you knew how to do that, wouldn't you rewrite, re-script the code to upgrade it? You and I upgrade our cell phone software, we upgrade our computer software, we upgrade the software in our car, depending on the car that we have. Why not upgrade your biocomputer software, right? If beliefs are nothing more than patterns that have been reinforced, if traumas are nothing more than patterns that have been reinforced, if habits are nothing more than patterns that have been reinforced, do we have to be victims of the past? We now know that neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to create new patterns, okay, is real. We now know that neurogenesis, our brain's ability to create new neurons, to create new patterns, is happening all the time. But if we don't do what we said yesterday on day one of this, become aware of your thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, and behaviors, then we are by default reinforcing the very patterns that may be holding us back. Does that make sense? Is this helpful and useful? I want to give you much more power and control than maybe you're giving yourself. When we are reframing, okay, let me share with you some research that was done a few years ago that'll show you how powerful a reframe can be. Have you ever had an experience in your life that at the time, it was really painful? At the time, you were traumatized. At the time, you were really distraught. At the time, you really didn't like it. Did you ever have an experience like that? Maybe a divorce. Maybe you went through cancer. Maybe you broke up with somebody. It was so painful. But at the time, it felt like everything was falling apart. And if you look back at it now, all right, do you have any experience like that that you actually can look back at and say, thank God it happened? Oh my God, because I got divorced, I'm so happy now. Because I had this illness, I took care of my health. Because I failed, I learned what to do the next time. Because blank and blank happened. Have you ever had that happen to you? Let me share something with you. What happens to a lot of people is they allow their past and the negative associations with a past occurrence to control their present moment. Thereby, they're recreating, reinforcing not only the neural pattern, but they reactivate the neurons and the neurochemicals that are released in their brain. Now, here is the study that was done several years ago. They interviewed people who had major traumas in their life, whether it was as children or adults. Specifically, this was around rape, which is horrific, right? Horrific. Nobody should ever be put through that. And they interviewed people that had moved on and somehow got their lives together. And they also interviewed people that were still suffering from the trauma. And when they dove deep into how were some people able to move on, there was one core theme that kept showing up. One core theme, okay, that every single person who had moved on had in common. Can anybody tell me what was the core theme? They were traumatized, sexual abuse, rape, men and women, okay? Some people moved on, some people were traumatized, okay, for life. All right, can anybody guess what was the one common theme that everybody, okay, agreed on or was a common denominator? And here is what the common theme was. The people who were traumatized emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, they said, how can I take what happened to me to make sure it doesn't happen to anybody else? How can I reframe it from something traumatic and horrible into something that I can serve with, right? How can I use the experience? How can I reframe the experience? Not to undermine it, not to desensitize it, but how could they use it to help others? How could they use it to lift themselves up, to give some kind of purpose and meaning to it? That's a reframe. Do you think maybe that you can develop that skill of reframing? I'm going to leave you with this, all right? There's a 4R process that I'm going to leave you with as a little gift, okay? Number 1 is recognize, reframe, release. Recognize, reframe, release is the third part. Release what? Well, when we are aware of disempowering thoughts, traumas, beliefs, self-image, or fears, we are activating, okay, or our sympathetic nervous system is automatically automatically triggering the stress neurochemicals like cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine. Those are the stress hormones that cause us to fight, flight, or freeze. Fight, flight, or freeze is an automatic reaction when we feel unsafe, when we feel that there is possibly danger ahead, when we feel we might be embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, judged, when we feel we might lose money, when we feel we might be making the wrong decision. But what happens is when that happens, the Einstein part of your brain, the left prefrontal cortex, actually deactivates the thinking part of your brain, and the Frankenstein's monster part of your brain activates. And what we want to do is what I shared with you yesterday. We want to calm that circuit and deactivate, okay, the stress circuit, the fear, the anxiety circuit. And one of the easiest ways to do that, 6 deep breaths in through your nose slowly. Out through your mouth, very, very slowly. 6 breaths tells your brain to be calm instead of to be stressed. So you can deliberately and automatically deactivate the part of your brain that automatically activates when you're under stress, worry, doubt, anxiety, fear. And then you can switch to the parasympathetic nervous system, which does what? It allows you to be calm so you can respond instead of stressed and react. We react automatically based on our past. We can be calm to respond based on present moment decisions and being at choice. We have to become better equipped to manage our own brain, or it will keep repeating patterns. And the fourth, retrain. So recognize, reframe, release, and retrain your brain. So now, when we do this every hour, every half day, every day, and we practice, now we're retraining our brain to develop a new pattern. And what happens with practice? Practice is what makes permanent. Practice is what makes permanent. That's how you learned how to walk, how to speak, how to do math, how to play chess, how to knit, how to write, how to do everything, how to eat. That's how you learned. Through practice is what made permanent patterns. The permanent patterns that become reinforced become your habits. The habits then control your life. Does this make sense? You have way more power, okay, than you may be expressing. You may be standing on the edge of your potential, feeling like you have so much potential, but you're lacking some skill on what to do. Awareness is a skill, right? Being calm is a skill. Creating new patterns is a skill, all right? Why is it critical to start off with a precise vision? Forget about goals for just a moment. Why is a vision so important when we're looking at the neuroscience of goal achievement? How many messages are we having a day? Thoughts, right? Our own thoughts. How many messages are we having, right? 6,200 to 6,500 thoughts a day, right? How many messages do you think we're getting from the outside world, right? From social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, all that stuff. Thousands and thousands more messages. So why is it imperative to create a vision that you want to achieve? Imagine this. How many of you would get on an airplane and the pilot didn't know where you were going? Would you hop on? Listen, I know for fun, maybe it's like, hey, we're going to take a 1-hour tour, right? But what you want to understand is if you want to get your $100 billion brain to work really well, Create a vision sometime out in the future so that your conscious and subconscious brain can actually start working on how to start achieving it. Without a vision, there's what? Nothing. There's nothing. So what is your vision for how much income you want to make, let's say 3 years from now? What's your vision for your lifestyle? What's your vision for your health? What's your vision for your relationships? What's your vision of how you see it in a perfect state? Okay? If you can create a picture in your mind, your brain can start working towards figuring out how to achieve it. Does that make sense? Do you know why most people are afraid of writing down a vision of what they would like? Like, why do most people not want to write out a vision for their life? Like, let's go to why, right? I'm going to tell you why. They're afraid they may fail. They're afraid if they write a vision, they don't achieve it, they might be disappointed. They're afraid if they share it with somebody else, okay, and they don't achieve it, they're going to be embarrassed or ashamed or ridiculed or judged or rejected. They're afraid that if they don't achieve it, they're going to affect their self-worth, self-esteem, and self-image. They are afraid. And so they don't want to commit to something that has a chance of failing. But in not creating a vision, do you know what you're actually doing? You're not giving your brain the instruction of what you actually need it to help you achieve. So if your vision is vague, so are your behaviors. If your vision is uncertain, so are your thoughts. If your vision is uncertain, so are your emotions. If your vision is uncertain, then you are going to be going after this one day, after this another day. Does that sound true and fair? Do you know why I have, this is my exceptional life blueprint. Every one of my clients gets a copy of this. Do you know why I start off with a vision of my current life or a vision of the life, that I am creating? Do you know why I write down, my vision and I write down every one of my top goals, for every area of my life, for health, wealth, relationships, career, business? Do you know why I do it? It's because when you activate this part of your brain called the Einstein part of your brain or the genius part of your brain, you're activating your imagination. When you create the clarity of what it is that you want and you write it down, you're activating the imagination occipital lobe part of your brain. Now you're getting that part of your brain. When you add why you must achieve your vision, you're adding the mid part of your brain, the limbic part of your brain. So now you've engaged more of your brain. When you set goals of what you're going to achieve by when, you're activating another part of your brain. When you come up with how you're going to achieve your goals, you're activating another part of your brain. So what are we doing? We are activating different parts of our brain, right? This $100 billion biocomputer to help us achieve our goals. But if we don't have clarity, then our brain is like, what should I be doing? Let me focus on what I have. Let me focus on why I can't achieve it. So when we have a vision that is clear, we engage our brain. When we have goals, a year from now, 9 months from now, 6 months from now, 3 months from now, 1 month from now, 1 week from now, now it's like, okay, I can make progress towards that. So many people are afraid of setting a vision because they don't have the knowledge or the skills to achieve it. So many people are afraid of having a vision and goals because they don't know how, am I going to make that happen? How am I going to make 2 times more money? How am I going to live the life of my dreams? How am I going to get into the best shape of my life and stay that way? How am I going to have a great relationship? How am I going to contribute my life, my energy, my time, my knowledge, my skills? How am I going to write a book? How am I going to become a coach? How am I going to start my business? How am I going to grow my business? That is a problem because the how. Pay attention to this. Ready? How you achieve a goal always comes after you set the goal. How to achieve a goal always comes after you set the goal. So here's 2 ways you can live your life. You can live your life by looking at your present circumstances. Here's where I live. Here's how old I am. Here's how much money I have. Here's the knowledge I have. Here's the skills that I currently have. Therefore, here is the goal or the vision that I have for my life. That's one way to do it. Or the way I teach all of my students how to do it is very, very different. First, set the vision of what you would love to trade your life for and have. Then set goals, okay, that you don't know how to achieve yet in the distance. And then you ask yourself this question. Ready? Who do I need to become in order to achieve those goals? What do I need to believe? What habits do I need to create? What knowledge and skill do I need to learn? Who can help me? What book is there? What coach is there? What program is there that can help me create a path towards that goal? If you want to use your brain better, you have to understand how it operates, right? So a lot of times we're operating from a state of fear and lack, and we don't have what we need, and that's controlling our thinking. Therefore, we're recreating more of the same. Well, if you don't change, what's going to change? Zero. You are just going to keep reinforcing, okay, the same results over and over again, the same thoughts, the same emotions, the same feelings, sensations, behaviors over and over and over again. All of my students, hundreds of thousands around the world that I'm helping them train their brain, is training their brain on a better process. If we committed, okay, to a vision, a year from now, we are all of us, okay, that are watching right now, all of us are going to cross the finish line together, and we're going to celebrate that we just jogged a marathon. A year from now, we made a commitment today. We said, okay, we're going to see that vision, okay? And we're going to set some goals for 30 days from now. We're going to set some goals 90 days from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, 10, 11, and 12 months from now. And we started to think the right way. We started to exercise the right way carefully. We started to build the skills. We started to build the plan. We started to eat well. We started to sleep well. We got enough rest. And we put together a plan of how we are going to jog a marathon a year from now. How are we going to jog a marathon a year from now? We don't have to know the exercise routine right now. We don't have to know the sleep routine right now. We don't have to know the dietary restrictions and how many calories we need. All we need to do is set the vision and some goals, right? Now, if we were committed, could every one of us, if we followed the plan that we may not even know now, if we were committed, could we all cross the finish line a year from now with our hands up, jogging a marathon, doesn't matter how slow? If you agree that if we committed and we created a plan, even though we may not have one now, and we followed through, we could do it. So what does that tell me? It tells me that you don't have to know the how, okay? You don't have to know the how when you make the commitment. You have to make the commitment, then you develop the how. Does that make sense? That means that if you want to double your income in the next 12 months, you don't have to know how to double your income first. You have to make the commitment to double your income. I want you to use your imagination, the Einstein part of your brain, okay, to imagine a better future, a better life, healthier, happier, contributing more, giving, making sure that your life has more purpose and meaning. I want you to come with how much money do you need to make in the next year or 2 or 3 in order to live that lifestyle. You come with that, I'll show you, and the other teachers will show you how to achieve it. Is that a deal? We know the how, because we're doing it for ourselves and our students. So the Brain-A-Thon is all about helping you set your vision, helping you set your goals, but also removing the obstacles that you have in your way. Because what do you think may be holding you back? What do you think may be holding you back? Number 1 is you're not committed. Number 2 is you have limiting beliefs. Number 3, you may not feel you're worth it. Number 4, okay, you may not have the knowledge and skills. Number 5, you don't have the habits to achieve the goals that you want to achieve right now. Would you agree with that? No bullshit, no walking on eggshells. That's what's holding you back, right? Well, we know how to get rid of those things. You don't have to be a victim of those things, but if you don't change now, you're going to have the same story in a year from now, in 2 years from now, in 3 years from now, in 4 years from now. Why? Because change has to happen in your brain first. Change happens on the inside first. And if you create a methodical path to achieving your goal, you can achieve it. So, because these are the building blocks to develop the mindset of a financially free person so you can live the life of your dreams versus hope and prayer that it works. If you don't change your brain, you'll never change your income. If you don't change your brain, you'll never change your relationship. If you don't change your brain, what's happening on the inside, you won't change your health. If you don't change your brain, you will just keep reinforcing patterns that you've developed over the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. I want you to interrupt the negative patterns. I want you to disrupt them, get rid of them, the ones that are weak and the ones that don't serve you, the ones that are destructive, disempowering you, and negative, and replace them with new empowering beliefs about yourself. From a neuroscience perspective, right, what is self-confidence? I know it's confidence in self, but what really is it? What takes away our self-confidence and what actually gives us great self-confidence, right? So when we have, or when we lack knowledge and skill, right, on how to achieve our goal, does that take away from our self-confidence, right? Let's say that you don't have the knowledge and skill on how to double your income. You don't have the knowledge and skill on how to get out of debt faster. You don't have the knowledge and skill on how to invest wisely. You don't have the knowledge and skill on how to protect your income or your net worth and your assets. So if you don't have the knowledge and skill, do you think that maybe at a subconscious level that activates the uncertainty trigger, the uncertainty circuit in your brain? Think of how your brain works, right? Everything I teach is based in neuroscience and neuropsychology. So if you don't have self-confidence, right, the question is what's causing you not to have self-confidence, right? And when we don't have the knowledge and skill of what to do, how to do it, when to do it, why to do it, then it actually activates the doubt circuit, the uncertainty circuit, the fear circuit that we might make a mistake, the fear of failure circuit, the fear of disappointing ourselves circuit. Does that make sense? Right? So when we don't have the training, then that lowers, okay, our brain's firing threshold for uncertainty. And when we are uncertain, pay close attention. When you and I are uncertain, when we have doubt, do we take action or do we move away from possibly getting hurt spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, financially? Right? Let's understand that self-confidence, having it or not having it is an effect, right? What has to happen? What's one thing that must happen in order for you to raise your self-confidence and the certainty muscle that you have in order to make that a probability instead of a possibility? A probability instead of a probability. So why don't you play along with me? Like, let's really go deeper into what's happening in our brains, because if we need more self-confidence, okay, right? If we want more self-confidence to achieve, let's say, a doubling of our income, what is one thing that has to happen in order for us to have more self-confidence, right? What is one thing that has to happen in order for us to have more self-confidence, right? So you would have to have the beliefs. Why not write the beliefs that you would need to have? And why not read them every day? Why not visualize them? Because visualization is simulation of those beliefs. Visualization is crystallization, okay, of an idea, right? So why not write down a belief that would empower you and give you more self-confidence, right? What would have to happen in order for you to believe you can achieve it? What would have to happen in order for you to feel worthy that you can achieve it? Like, what's one thing that would have to happen in order for you to feel worthy of achieving that, right? When we're talking about the neuroscience of self-confidence, right? The neuroscience of self-esteem, the neuroscience of self-worth. Would you agree that there's an inner game of how I think, what I believe, what I feel I am worthy of and deserve? But there is also another part, and that is I have to take the action to prove to myself that I can achieve that, right? So action is also something that's a required recipe in building self-confidence, in building self-worth, in building self-esteem. And when we take action, even if it's a little bit of action every day, do we build our self-esteem? Do we build our self-worth? Do we build our self-confidence when we take little action steps every day? Somebody, okay, who is taking a little bit of action every day is doing what? They're inspired. They are moving forward, right? And somebody who is limiting themselves is reinforcing a lack of self-trust, self-worth, self-esteem, and self-belief. Does that make sense? Think of it this way. Let's say you want to jog a marathon a year from now, all right? And let's say there's two people. One takes a little bit of action every day. They walk for 1 minute a day, and one talks about it, talks about it, talks about it, talks about it, talks about it. If the person who talks about it doesn't take any action, looks at their results in a month, in 3 months, in 6 months, in 12 months, and looks at how they're going to feel about themselves, they're going to feel what? A lower than desired self-worth, self-trust, self-confidence. What would happen to the person who does 1 minute a day for 30 days, then 10 minutes a day, for the next 30 days, and 30 minutes a day for the next 30 days, and 60 minutes a day in month 4 and 5 and 6 and 7? Which one will gain more self-confidence, right? So let me share something with you. A lot of people think that you need to have a lot of self-confidence in order to achieve your goals. And the truth is, the way you build a lot of self-confidence is with a lot of small little action steps to build the self-confidence. It's like going to the gym. If you're out of shape and you want to build your bicep muscle, right? And you do 5 pounds, right? Or 3 pounds or 2 pounds, right? You build the muscle over time. So you have the ability to take inspired action. So building self-confidence to achieve doubling your income or releasing weight and keeping it off or having a great relationship requires the consistency of some of the right behaviors. Does that make sense? A lot of times people talk about setting goals and having a vision, having a big why, but without action, even the tiniest action, we actually reduce our self-worth, self-esteem, and self-confidence. We actually shift over to something called disappointment avoidance, because if we set goals and we have this vision, we have these desires, but we don't back it up with action over long periods of time, we actually lower our self-trust. And is it not imperative that we trust ourselves? Is it not imperative that not only we set goals, but we follow through even with a little bit of execution? It's better than zero, right? Does that not make sense, right? I want you to think about what's happening in your brain. When you take action, you're building, your action-taking neuromuscle. When you don't, when you use stories, excuses, reasons, fears, limiting beliefs, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough to hold you back, you actually diminish that neuromuscle of self-confidence. Does that make sense? It's like a muscle gets atrophied when it's not used, and the muscle gets stronger when it is used. Whenever we're looking to make changes, whether it's to stop something or start something, start or stop something, when we reduce the cognitive load or the amount of energy that our brain needs to expend because it wants to conserve energy, it's the third most important aspect of what our brain wants to do: survival and safety, avoidance of pain or discomfort, conservation of energy. Changing to start a behavior or changing to stop a behavior requires a lot of the brain's energy and glucose, which it wants to conserve in case of a saber-toothed tiger, right? So let me ask you a question. What is one thing that if you did it every day for the next 30 days, you will increase your self-confidence, your self-worth, self-esteem. Just give me one small thing, not that you can do, but that you are committed to doing, right? People who are committed achieve success. People who are interested, what happens to them? They don't. I want you to be committed to one behavioral change. I want you to be committed to one behavioral change, and that behavioral change could be one thing you're going to stop or one thing you're going to start. So here's what I want you to do. When you are giving me that one thing, I want more detailed, specific. So running is not enough. Run for 20 minutes. Reading is not enough, right? Be very, very specific. Why? Our brain loves specifics. So walking or swimming, for how long? Getting up earlier, how much earlier, right? One thing you can do every day, Igor, to make sure that you get paid doing what you love. Every one of us is mega busy with health, wealth, relationships, career, business, family, fun, experiences, things we're committed to. Do not, let me repeat, do not make a commitment to do something that is going to take so much time, you're going to come up with excuses, stories, or reasons why you can't. So it's easy to make decisions of what we want to do. But you have to remember that when our brain actually has to think about doing the thing that we say we're going to do, it's going to say, oh my God, I've got so many things to do. I want to keep doing what's easy and convenient. So I would prefer you to say, instead of an hour run or an hour workout, 15 minutes no matter what. Reduce it to the lowest you can, so that not doing it is nearly impossible. Does that make sense? So reduce it to the ridiculous. Here's what happens, right? I don't know if you, like me, have stories in your head. You have reasons why you can't. You wake up tired. You have 12 appointments. There's things you need to do. There's stuff you're behind on. There's other things that are really more important. So here's the thing with developing empowering self-confidence habits. Here it is. When we want to develop a habit, pay attention to what I'm about to share with you, okay? This is like the holy grail, okay? The habit is more important than the intensity or duration or complexity at first. Let me repeat. The habit is more important than the intensity, the duration, or the complexity at first. So if you want to develop a habit of having self-confidence, which is today's topic, then create a habit of whether it's, a visualization session for 5 minutes a day. Create a habit of taking some inspired action for 5, 10, 15 minutes a day that'll increase your self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence, and self-trust. Develop a habit. Now, how long does it take to develop a habit? All the latest research shows that it's about 66 days to 365 days. 66 days to 365 days. So here's what I can promise you, and I tell all of my students this, is don't even start unless you commit to whatever it is you just wrote for 100 days. Don't even start. Why? Because you'll disappoint yourself, and then you'll actually lose self-trust for yourself. So 66 days to 365 days, why not say, whatever it is that I said is going to increase my self-worth or self-esteem, I'm going to do it every day for at least 100 days. That way I create the neural pattern in my brain, right? Because every time you do it, the neurons that fire together wire together. The more neurons fire together and wire together, the more they go from conscious effort to a subconscious pattern. Does that make sense? Conscious effort to subconscious pattern, otherwise known as a habit. So if you're going to start, why not set yourself up on a plan that not only you can finish, but you're going to develop a keystone habit of positive self-worth, self-trust, and self-confidence. Does this make sense? I'm giving you the neuroscience, the neuropsychology of change, the neuropsychology of upgrading your awareness, which we did on Monday, upgrading your reframing techniques, which we did on Tuesday, upgrading why you should set a vision and goals, and upgrading your self-confidence and self-worth. You have to start with awareness. And the question that a lot of people asked was, awareness of what? And the answer is awareness of your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, your sensations, which cause your behaviors. And would you agree that when you have the knowledge and the skills required to become a millionaire or multimillionaire, you actually are motivated to take action? Would you agree that if you have more positive thoughts than negative thoughts, you can take action? Would you agree that whether you have the ability to manage your fear of failure, fear of being embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, judged, fear of disappointing yourself, when you know how to manage the fears, they don't control you, you control them, right? So that is a skill, because all of us have emotions, right? Emotions is the energy in motion in our body. And if we have a fear of failure, then why would we want to take action? That's what deactivates the motivational center in our brain. Are you aware that the motivational center is connected to the behavioral center? And when we have motivation, that's the motive for action, we behave in ways to take action. But when we have a motive to protect ourselves from failing, disappointment, being embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, or judged, we actually do not take action. So it's like gas and brakes on a car. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? If that makes sense, that would be great, okay? So that's number one. Number two, we talked about reframing any of the disempowering experiences in our life before so that they empower us. We talked about how do you reframe, fear so that your fear becomes your fuel. How do you reframe limiting beliefs? And one of the techniques I taught was take any limiting belief that you have and say, in the past, I used to, and put in the negative belief, and now I choose to, and put in a positive belief that you want to impress into your subconscious mind. So when we take a belief and we read it and says, in the past I used to, our brain says, oh, okay. And when we give our brain the instruction, and now I choose to, and you write the positive thing, and then you reinforce it every day, every week, every month, it actually opens up the neural networks, activates motivation, activates your ability to take action, and now you're not held back by limiting beliefs. That's just one of many, many techniques that you can learn on how to reframe. Third one, we talked about setting your vision, your goals, and why is that important? Well, it's important. There's a part of your brain called the left prefrontal cortex, which is what I also call the Einstein part of the brain. And when you set your goals, you choose them using this part of your brain, you activate the occipital lobe, this part of your brain. There's another part of your brain nobody talks about. It's called the GPS part of your brain that works like a guidance missile system works. It helps you find the very thing that you've set the vision for or the goals that you want to achieve. However, you've got to have a few things when you're setting your vision goals. Number one, your vision has to be clear. Your goals have to have timelines around it, and you have to have a why you must achieve your goals. When you have the vision and the goals that are precise, then you want to activate the limbic system, which is the emotional part of the brain. And so now vision, goals, and a big why activates motivation, activates the GPS part of your brain, activates the behavioral part of your brain, and then guess what? Then you start to take action. Then number 4, we said, how are you going to gain self-confidence, right? But how do you gain confidence and certainty? And one of the things that came up is you have to take a little bit of action every day. A little bit of action is better than no action, right? A little bit of action is better than no action. Why? Because at least a little bit of action, you're building your self-confidence, self-worth, self-trust, self-esteem, neuromuscle. When you don't take action, you actually decrease your self-confidence, your self-esteem, your self-worth, and even your self-trust because you don't trust yourself to take action. So we have to build self-confidence and certainty. And if we start making a little bit of progress each day towards our goals and dreams, a little progress builds the muscle. Not taking action deactivates and weakens the muscle. So finding your resources. There are 4 areas that I want you to consistently focus on. This is what I teach all of my students. I've got over 100,000 students, okay, who are learning how to win the game of money, how to change their brain, to change their income, change their brain, change their business, change their brain, change their life. So number 1, I want you to shift a frame, right? What do you think is happening in your brain? Do you think your brain says, I'm lacking the resources? Oh, well, what should I do? Poor me. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the skills. I'm lacking. So if your brain is a biocomputer, which it is, right? If your brain is a biocomputer, which it is, if you're thinking and feeling like I don't have the resources, isn't that the software that your brain runs saying, I don't have the resources? You feel like you don't have the resources, therefore you don't take action? I want to give you a couple of things to do starting right now. Are you ready? Instead of focusing on lack of resources, I want you to think of this. How can I be resourceful? How can I be resourceful right now? How can I be resourceful right now? Who can help me with the resources that I need? Now, think about this for just a moment. I mentioned there's 4 areas that we want to talk about. Is your mindset one of your resources that you could tap into? Okay? What separates the best from the rest? Is it possible that asking yourself better questions leads to better answers? Asking yourself better questions leads to more empowered emotions. More empowered emotions actually move you towards what you want. Disempowering thoughts and emotions move you away from what you want. Does that make sense? What has to happen in order for me to? That opens up the neural networks of your brain that actually cause you to use your brain the best way possible. But when, okay, we are focusing on a lack of resources, when we're focusing on negative thoughts, negative feelings, negative emotions, negative results, negative everything in our life, we're lacking something. Whereas when we open up our brain, we open up the world of possibilities and your biocomputer goes to work. So when we're dealing with mindset, you can become resourceful. You can go to my YouTube channel. You can go to my Instagram channel. You can go to my Facebook videos. You can read my books. You can read other people's books, other people's trainings as well. You can join us on the Brain-A-Thon and we'll upgrade your mindset so that you can elevate your abilities. Does that make sense? Number 1, it's not the lack of resources. It's in many times the lack of your resourcefulness. And it's the lack of answering or asking yourself empowering questions that will move you forward and towards your goals versus moving you away from. We are creatures of habit, so we repeat these patterns over and over again. But first, we have to start with using our brain better. You already own $100 billion brain. You already own it. You don't owe anybody a penny on it. It's yours. So you need to start using your brain better. So we want to become resourceful, okay, with our mindset skills to upgrade it. So then, all right, finding resources for mindset, I just gave you that. What about skill set? So now, okay, I don't have the skill set, right? So you could be focused on, I don't have a skill set. I don't know how to earn more money. I don't know how to manage my money better. I don't know how to invest properly. I don't know how to protect my money. I don't know how to get out of debt faster. I don't know how to use debt as leverage. I don't know. So if you are in that state of mind of I don't know around the skill set, you are hostage. You're hostage to that. And let's get you unstuck. Let's get you to stop standing on the edge of your potential. How to make more money. I don't care if you have a job or you don't have a job. I don't care if you have a business. If you committed to 30 minutes a day to upgrade your skills, could you make more money? Right, 30 minutes a day, okay, every day for 365 days, right, is like 190 hours of training. 190 hours of training if you just focused on making more money for 30 minutes a day. Okay, that's the equivalent of 4.5 weeks of training. 4.5 weeks of training. That's 4.5 40-hour weeks, right? 180 hours. So it's not the resources called skills that's your issue. Chances are it's you're not committed to upgrading the skill set to match the goals and dreams you want. Would you agree? Let's be real, be radically honest, don't bullshit yourself, okay? Tell yourself the truth. If I was committed to 30 minutes a day, I could learn how to make more money. If I was committed, okay, I could learn how to manage my money better. If I was committed, I could learn how to invest a lot better than I know. If I was committed, I can get rid of my debt a lot faster. If I was committed, I could actually use debt in order to make money. If you can borrow money at 2 or 3 or 4%, you can make 10%, you can make the spread. All those are skills. And if you are not being resourceful with either your time, your focus, your energy, then guess what? You're going to be a victim of your current circumstances. This is the truth. No bullshit here. So we've talked about mindset. We've talked about skill set. I've given you an entire recap of this whole week. Now there are 2 more sections to this. Action set. Mindset plus skill set plus action set. So are there people who know what to do? Many people know 1 or 2 or 3 things they know what to do, but they're not doing it. But that comes back in to mindset, which is what the Brain-A-Thon is all about. But action set, if you don't know what you should be doing, every day, every week, every month, every quarter, every year, if you don't know, if you don't have rituals for success, whether it's financial, health, wealth, relationships, career, or business, if you don't have, an action set, rituals that start every morning that guarantee and create predictability, then your action set, the set of actions you take, may just not be the right action set. So to be able to know what to do every single day, your action set, right? There's no such thing as time management. The only thing we can do is manage what we do in time. And there are some people that are highly, highly, highly productive and focusing on the critical few things that get the big, great results. And there's other people that are focused on the trivial many without an organizational action set of what it is they should be doing. Right? So when we're talking about, getting the mindset right, that's part of it, but you've got to have the skill set, but you also have to have the action set right also. This is like a formula, no differently than if you want to solve the Rubik's Cube, there's an algorithm. If you want to open up a lock, to a safe that has $1 million in there, there's a combination. This is the combination I'm giving you. And then number 4, is your environment. The first environment that I've just been talking with you about all week is your inner environment, right? The inner environment. But what about your outer environment? Are you involved with a group okay, of people that lift you up? Are you involved, okay, in daily inspiration? Are you involved with people that can help promote you, can help lift you up, can help you solve challenges, can help you, achieve your goals faster? Or are you in an environment where people are bringing you down and you might be the one lifting them up? So when we're talking about resource and becoming resourceful, you have to get yourself into an environment, okay, that lifts you up, right? That lifts you up, that causes you, all right, to challenge yourself, that causes you to let go of your stories, your reasons, your excuses fast, and gives you the ability to step into your greatness. So when you do that, all right, now you are putting yourself in the environment internally with mindset, skill set, action set, and the environment that lifts you up as you climb, you lift others up. All right. So when we do this, we give ourselves the best chance. We are now finding the resources, okay, and being resourceful, okay, for mindset, for skill set, for action set, and our environment, all right? Hey, this is John, and if you liked that video, watch the next video because it is packed with things that you can do right now to achieve success way faster than ever before.